Sam, you think that this is appropriate at this point to be comparing Joe Burrow to a young Tom Brady?
Absolutely. Now, the issue is the Super Bowl championships. Like, that's going to be an issue. Who else is going to get 7 rings, right? Like, who else is going to get 7 rings, right? Eli Manning got 2, Big Ben got 2, and these guys are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. And so the 7 rings piece is different. But the ability to not only make plays at the position, but to hear something that someone said and use it against them. Wink Martindale, he said, oh, we're not putting a gold jacket on him now. We're not going to even double team Chase. He ain't done nothing. They're not good enough, yada, yada, yada. And then to go and put up 525, the 4th most all time. Like that's different. Not everybody can do that. And so Steve Spagnuolo and also the players on that team, they know how good that Joe Burrow is. They know how good that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Boyd are. They know how good that the weapons are mixed. And they understand that totally. But what they understand even more is that it takes a certain kind of persona. It takes a certain kind of person. It takes a certain kind of confidence and, dare I say, even ego to do the things that Joe Burrow has done and is doing. Over the last month, he has more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes, right? He has just as many touchdowns and just as many interceptions, but more passing yards. The difference is the winning, right? Mahomes is 4-0 in the last month. Joe Burrow is 2-2. And so that's the difference, is the winning piece, right? Will he be able to win Super Bowls, and not only 7, but 1? That's got to be the biggest crux of this conversation. But outside of that, which is a big caveat, right? Outside of that, there is definitely a comparison. This dude's got moxie, got swagger, got confidence. He has it all. And oh, by the way, he can throw the ball pretty darn good, too.
Yeah, I don't think we even have to bring the Super Bowls in it, because Spagnuolo said he reminds him of a young Tom Brady. He's not predicting that he's going to turn into Tom Brady, but I do think the comparison is interesting because outside of that transfer that he had in college, if he hadn't had that transfer, he might have been a 6th-round pick, just like Tom Brady. And he might have backed his way into a starting job, just like Tom Brady, and become great. But I think Spagnuolo is doing something that seems pretty obvious. Last week, Wink Martindale made the mistake of kind of giving them some fuel. And they came out and threw for 500 yards, a ton of touchdowns, and blew them out. I think Spagnuolo, whether he believes what he's saying or not, is saying this because he is trying not to give them any more fuel than they need. But I actually think that depending on how you look at it, Joe Burrow could take this as a slight, just like he did last week. I went back and looked at some of those early Tom Brady numbers. Tom Brady, as far as yards that he's thrown for in most of the major categories, turnover to interception ratio, those sorts of things, they're nowhere near what Joe Burrow is doing. Like, he was much less a part of that team as far as he was much less important to the success of that team than Joe Burrow is to the Bengals right now. So they were a running team that played a lot of defense, that played defense well when they won that Super Bowl on Tom Brady's rookie year. And then the following year, Tom Brady, I think, was 22nd in the league for passing yards. He made a Pro Bowl. He was good. They were good. But we all kind of understood back then when we were watching football that he was managing games. He was managing the games as well as anybody we could ever expect, but that's what he was doing. That is not what Joe Burrow is doing. When Joe Burrow plays well, this team wins. When they put the ball in his hands and let him throw a lot on early downs in particular, this team blows other teams out. This is a team that is dependent, though Mixon is a great running back, they're dependent on those great receivers in Joe Burrow attacking down the field. That was not what the young Tom Brady was into. So if Joe Burrow is if his skill is going to escalate the same way Tom Brady is, we're looking at maybe the best quarterback in the history of the game from where he is now. But right now, I think it's a fair comparison to make, because I think he's talking more about his persona and the things that you mentioned, Sam, about him being confident and being comfortable and having a bit of an ego. That stuff seems comparable to Tom Brady. But as a passer, he's way ahead of where Tom Brady was in his first, second, or third year.
I got to push back, Neek, a little bit, only because the comment you said about Spagnuolo and how he said, man, he's probably doing this because he learned from what Wink Martindale had said. You know that's not true. You know that coaches speak their minds. Coaches are going to say what they believe. They turn on the tape and they watch it. Martindale spoke his mind. He turned on the tape. He said, hey, we're not crowning him just yet. That's what he believes. Spagnuolo believes that this dude reminds him of a young Tom Brady. And so I don't think there's any like, well, let me not get him upset so he comes and goes crazy on our team. I don't think that's part of his mindset and decision making. I think he says, I'm going to turn on the tape, I'm going to see what I see, and I'm going to speak it how it is. I don't think there's any fear. Because when you say that, it almost invokes a sense of fear, right? Like, man, I'm kind of scared of this guy, and I got to make sure I don't rile him up so he doesn't hurt our defense. I think there's respect for sure, and that's why a comment like that is made. But I don't think there's any sense of fear I don't want to wake up this sleeping giant.
Yeah, I don't know that I wouldn't use the word fear necessarily, but as long as you play football, every coach said don't give them bulletin board material. Like, that's what they're doing.
Not everyone, not Martindale.
Yeah, but that's the point. They don't give me any extra ammo. And the idea that coaches always tell the truth and speak what's on their mind, like, you had different coaches than me. Coaches lie, Sam. They lie. And I'm not saying that's what Spagnuolo was doing, but I think that he definitely learned from last week when Burrow came out there and cooked the Ravens backup secondary. He knows that it doesn't serve them at all to come out here and say, I don't know, he got lucky last week. I think he's mediocre. It serves them a bit to be like, no, he's the greatest of all time. I think he might win 8 Super Bowls.
Yeah, I want to hear the next coach be like, yeah, he did get lucky. That's what I want to hear. I want to see in Week 18 the Browns talk about, yeah, he was lucky. He was lucky a couple weeks ago. That'd be interesting.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.